Hi, I'm Mike from Michael's Motor Cars, located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I have a really fun car we just found recently that I'd like to show you. Come on over and take a look at it. If you watch and look at the cars we sell, you'll see that occasionally I come up with cars that we sell at no reserve auctions, and this is a no reserve auction. And they're cars that sometimes we bought them individually, sometimes we buy them in a group of cars. This is a car that we sourced out of Ohio. We actually bought 4 or 5 cars out of this trip. And within this family of cars, you'll see a couple Morgans popping up and a couple MGs. And then the guy said, well, I also have this Healey. And I always love it when it's like the Healey sitting in the corner or the car under a cover, and we find out, well, what is it? And then maybe we'll buy that one also. This car has a very cool story. The guy we bought it from purchased the car in the mid-'80s when he was in college. He knew the local owner that had it. It was owned by a lawyer in the Ohio area. And it had been sort of discarded, and it hadn't run for a lot of years. It was sitting, I think, in the guy's garage, and he wanted the garage back. So he called the guy, said the Healey hasn't run for a long time. The guy came over literally with a fresh battery and I think a fuel pump, and the car started right up. That was after they agreed on a price and after he bought the car. So to me, what's neat about it, this is a stealth Healey. It's a bomber of a car. It's in terrible condition, but it's also in wonderful condition. And you can do anything you want to do with this car. Please take the time and watch the videos we do of driving this car, cold start video, and what we're doing right now, and particularly the photos of the underneath of the car. I'm sure all of the Healey people will jump in and have opinions on this car. What I can tell you from my observations, it was a blue car originally. The frame rails are very straight and true and appear to be very original. You can still see the blue paint on the long frame rails. They still have their original weld spots on them. This was not a rebuilt frame or anything. However, the outriggers are terrible. There's a lot of rust on the outriggers. They should be replaced, repaired, whatever. The sills are terrible. So all of that needs to be done on this car. And that's the fun about doing a car like this. The next owner of this car can do whatever level he wants to do. You can restore this car. You could have a welder who's a friend patch it up and just drive the heck out of it, which would be a lot of fun to do, frankly, or whatever thing in between you want to do. So let's start up here. I had the same situation when I saw this car. We hooked up a jumper pack to it, and it started right up. So I just think it's a car that wants to go somewhere. Here you can see a lot of the original paint. It was a really cool teal blue the Healey has. And you see it on the firewall here. So clearly that's the original paint on the car. The car does have all of its numbers, all of its tags, and this is a matching number car. So the number that's on the tag of the engine, and we'll take photos of all of this more accurately, does match the plate. So this is the original engine to the car. It's always had. And you can see right away, this is exactly how we bought the car. So he had dreams of bringing the car back and driving it. He was thinking of racing the car, all these different things that we've all dreamt about doing. The radiator clearly was gone over and cleaned up. The carbs were cleaned, and the valve cover was painted. It does run quite well. The engine does smoke a little bit, so it probably would benefit from a valve job, but it's very serviceable and very drivable in its current configuration. A number of years ago, when he was thinking of redoing the car, he pulled the engine and trans, had the transmission gone over, and more importantly, the overdrive was rebuilt. You'll see in my test drive, the overdrive works very well in this car. It goes in and out very quickly and works well. And you can sort of see in here, and again, we'll take photos of all this, he did a lot of work on the front suspension, tie rod ends were replaced, and he had gone over and tightened up a lot of things. The sway bar was replaced, the links were replaced. So the car is in a much more usable driver condition than what the outside appearance would suggest. And that's what I think is so cool about this car. This would be really fun. A weekend and a credit card and Moss Motors, and this car would be very drivable to use. It should have new tires. The tires are lousy. They're out of round, so they should be replaced. The wheels and rims seem to be okay. We do have, which I'll show you, he bought all new stainless steel trim strips for here. But as you go along here, it has rust down here, and it has rust in the outriggers. and some rust in the floor. So all of that should be addressed at some point. He was starting to take this apart, starting to think about taking the fenders off. He stopped. Anyone who knows Healeys will tell you that Healeys have a very complicated substructure. It's very expensive to restore a Healey. So I don't know that I recommend that for this car, but it's expensive to do this car to a higher level. But what I'm suggesting is just patch it together and drive it and have fun. The tach is working, the speedometer is working, the fuel gauge is working, oil pressure is working. It actually has great oil pressure, which we'll show you in the startup. The water temperature is not working. So, and I can feel it's broken off in the back. So the water temperature gauge is not working. As I mentioned earlier, it's the original transmission to the car. And of course, this was replaced, I think, at some point. But it's a car that, I mean, honestly, needs everything. And that's the fun part about selling a car like this. I can see through to the floor here. So there's serious rust in the rear floor area right here. That does obviously need to be addressed. So coming along to the back of the car, and here you can see this is some of the original paint under the red. We do have replacements for all of these. He does have his lenses in here. The trunk area. The gas tank, I think he took that out and had it cleaned because the car is running off of this gas tank. Has a relatively new battery that was just put in not two years ago, and it's running off of that battery. The trunk floor is rusty also. But remember, it is the numbers matching 106, early 106. Coming over here, he was working on some of the sills, has a bunch of these pieces made up. And I think at the time he was probably just accumulating parts, like when you do when you start thinking about a project like this. He has numerous parts from numerous cars. We do have, these are the pieces that were never used. These are brand new, and these are the stainless steel trim strips that go along the car. Never been used. They, of course, come with it. We do have over here the front bumper for the car with the correct brackets. This would actually clean up relatively well. So that'll be a fun project to do. We also have the convertible bows. We do not have any fabric. We don't have the top or anything. And he also had these small round lenses, which I think are the correct ones for the car. So he has a pair of these. Coming over here, we have the correct original 106 grille. 106, and it actually is in excellent condition. That would clean up very, very well. And we have a nice eyebrow that goes with the grille. And this I always find interesting. We've sold a number of factory Le Mans 100M cars, and they always go after it. It's so important that we have all the numbers matching. So this car actually does have the numbers matching surrounds. So all four of these pieces have the same body number stamped in them right here. So it's interesting when you look at that from a restoration point of view. It's a 106 matching number engine, matching number body, matching number surround pieces. So that's significant. We have the heater motor blower, we have the heater core, and we have the front bumper valance. He has a ANSA style exhaust system on the car that's old. It sounds great, it's actually functioning fine, but it's old. Coming along this side of the car, it's the same thing. Of course, as I mentioned, he had taken these out, but he has replacement ones. It's also corroded on this side of the car. He was thinking of taking the rear fender off again. And then he stopped when he realized, well, life got in the way and whether or not you do the project. So coming along here, the front fender, this one is actually pretty solid down here. And the outer sills are not bad. It's underneath where all the corrosion is. So this to me is just a, I love finding cars like this. This car is so eager to get on the road again. It has started instantly every time. I couldn't believe it when I drove it, how it actually drives. Considering its condition, it drives reasonably well. So if you're looking for a Healey project, I think this would be great. If you fooled around with MGBs and Triumphs and all the other cars and always wanted to get a Healey, I have not seen a Healey project like this in a long, long time. So it's a no reserve auction. Whoever wants to pay, whoever wins the highest bid gets the car. We have a clear Pennsylvania title to it. Again, all the numbers are correct on the car. They all match. Please, I do not recommend driving it home. I recommend bringing a trailer, which is what Bring a Trailer was all about in the first place. And I hope we find a really sympathetic, great home for this car. It just is such a neat find. I just think these cars are fun. So there you have it. Needs a lot of work, needs a lot of love. On the other hand, could be a really, really fun, rewarding project. Thanks for taking the time watching the video, and this is going to be a really fun auction. Thanks.